Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jen Marple Show. Today, I've got a beautiful guest, and her name is Maile Mock, Maile Mock in Marin, and she is a luxury real estate gal and a friend. And we are going to get into something really juicy today, and that is empty nesting. We are going to talk about empty nesting. We're going to talk about why it can be really hard, but also why we maybe need a reframe about empty nesting. Maybe it's the free bird time instead of the empty nest. We're turning into free birds. So instead of empty nesters, maybe we're looking at life as free birds. And we're going to look at it through the lens of Maile being deep in this realm. She works with so many midlife couples and mostly midlife women who are looking at real estate and looking to make a change. Either they're downsizing or people are leaving town. And so we all know midlife is this pivotal point for so many things. And this is a really big one, our physical location. So we are going to get into it all. So saddle up. I promise I won't cry about empty nesting, but we're going to get into it because we haven't really talked about it in depth yet on this show. So Maile, welcome. And are you ready for a midlife conversation about empty nesting, but also all the great opportunities with that reframe about free birding?
Thanks, Jen, for having me. No, I'm super excited to talk about it today. I mean, it's a tough time, but it's something that we should be talking about more and really just sort of thinking about, laying the groundwork. And I kind of am starting to embrace the freebird term. I mean, up until now, up until it became my reality of being, an empty nester, I was using the empty nest term, and that's true. I mean, that's the raw side of it. But the Freebird is kind of something that I can get my head around and get excited about.
Ooh, I'm glad. So yeah, we want to make things exciting. We want to tell it like it is here on the show, but we also want to show all the great opportunity and what's available to us in midlife. So Maile and I have kids around the same age. She's got a sophomore in college. You all know I have a freshman in college, and our girls are juniors in high school. So we're pretty much in the same realm. And so let's just dive right in, Maile. Why is having our kids leave the nest so freaking hard? Why is it so hard? Why does it feel like I have a limb that's been chopped off?
Because you do. I mean, the kids have been the center of our universe for 18 years or more. Our lives, our families have revolved around them. And this is a super emotional time. I mean, we're coming off of their senior years, a lot of anxiety around college and the application process. We're right there with them, their biggest cheerleader. Their heartbreak is our heartbreak. So that brings the emotions, to the surface. It's also a huge transition for us. We're afraid of it. Like this has been our life purpose, and part of our lives, our limbs, our hearts is they're going away. So I think that push and pull of them needing space and them needing their independence and us trying to hold on to every last precious thing just creates this crazy dynamic in our house. So you can't get away from the emotions of it.
I remember when I was at my son's, like one of the graduation parties we went to, and a couple of women came up to me and basically said, they're like, you are so lucky you have a career and you're doing all the things that you're doing because, and basically what they were saying is it's going to fill your time and your days up with something versus me, not having my kids at home and being really sad walking by their rooms. And I said, of course, of course, you all know what I said. I said, well, it's not too fucking late. Like, let's go. Let's get something going. Like, you have everything ahead of you. So I love just reframing all of this and looking at the opportunity versus, our sadness and what we didn't do. But I do know, just having come off of this, and I was just telling my husband last night, I said, what was making me sad last night is different than what was making me sad in the fall after saying goodbye to my son. Like I literally felt like something was missing. Like I kept waiting for my son to walk up the stairs. But now that we've been at this a while and he's been back at school, we're recording this after the holidays and, it's February, that I'm finding that I'm not missing him every moment of every day. And I understand rationally that that's what's supposed to happen, but that in and of itself is also making me sad because that separation it has happened. And it's what's supposed to happen, right, Miley? It's supposed
Right.
to happen that way. But, and I do miss him desperately, but it's not at the same level as when, you first send your kid away. So I know you've got a sophomore in college. Walk us through like how it gets easier and maybe some of that shift, because we really haven't talked about this empty nesting thing. And I want to really just dive really deep into it today.
Well, I don't know. It's getting easier for me too. But I think those initial first months, I really had to sit on my hands and not text, good morning, how are you? How did your test go? Like, right, being there up in, my daughter's, business all the time, like I was when she was home. I knew that wouldn't be healthy. It was like she needed to have her independence. She needed to deal with any problems, and I needed to take that step away. So that initially, over those first couple months, I let her establish sort of the cadence and the frequency of our communication. During that time, I think it was kind of like, getting less dependent on each other. So time helps that. It also has really helped for me to see her happy and her settling in and not that constant reach back, right? Like if they're happy, you're happy. It's still hard when I go upstairs and I see her room empty. It's still hard at dinner time when she's not there. It's still hard, really hard if I haven't heard from her for a couple days. But it has allowed me to be more present with my daughter who's still at home. She'll be leaving in just, 3 semesters. I'm counting down. And it's allowed me to be a little bit um, not stretched as thin in our daily life. She had, my older daughter was a cheerleader. She had her activities and I was involved in all that. Now I have a little bit more time to think about me. And as I get more involved in my own life again, I miss her a little bit less. I always wonder what she's doing, but it doesn't hurt as much, doesn't make me quite as sad.
What did you just say? You said allowed yourself to have some of your time back or focus more on you. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I think that really struck a chord, because we find this through, it's not a through line, but we find that, as the kids get older, there's this different level of independence that we both feel from each other. Certainly there's a big change when they get a driver's license and then they can start taking themselves to places, and also they could run errands. It's like, hey, can you get some milk and butter on your way home from school? Like that kind of stuff is great. But being involved in the day-to-day, the tests, the cheerleading practice, the basketball games, the soccer games, like whatever it is, it is a lot of activity. It is a lot of activity. And I think a lot of us are looking around going, okay, what's going to fill that time? And for many of us, hopefully, you're all listening to this show that you are doing something that you want to do and you're adding things back in. And I know for you, Maile, like you've decided to ramp up your business, and that's why we're working together. And like, side note, Maile is also a client. But this is one of these beautiful pearls that comes out of midlife and this empty nest. And as our kids go, and you're saying it allows more space, this is truly a time to shine the light back on yourself, right? And step into something that you want to do because, well, first of all, it's good, right? It's like putting your own air mask on, and we get to make ourselves happy. And secondly, these kids, they're gonna be all gone soon if they're not. I know a lot of you listening, they're already out the door, or they're on that next step where they've taken jobs, and now you're really not seeing them that much. But that just means we have to travel more. So it's that flip. So let's talk about the flip. Let's go from the empty nest, us crying in our Cheerios, looking at empty rooms, to the beauty of embodying what it means to be a free bird. So what does that mean to you? Because I know you and I have talked about this offline.
The beauty of being a free bird is it sort of jumps off at, again, our busy lives. It was like a whirlwind with the family. And now there's a little bit of time. I mean, I'm really grateful to still be kind of in the business mode and building my business. But if I didn't have that, I think I would still be excited to be thinking about what I want to do for myself, what hobbies, what travel, what really is going to get me excited. And I haven't been able to think about those things in a really long time. So I think it's all about finding time and prioritizing a little bit more of what you would like in your dailies. So, what gets me excited about being a free bird is being able to, set up a plan for myself, what and my husband, what is our home life going to look like? What is our travel life going to be like? We don't have kids vacationing schedules anymore, game schedules. We really do get to sort of set the schedule for ourselves for the first time and do some things, some out of the box thinking. What if bucket list items, right? Like, what have we been yearning to do that we haven't done in the last 18 years because we've sort of been home parenting?
I love that. And you're making me think about something that has popped up in my own life. And I'm going to ask this question. I want to discuss it because I know everyone listening is probably going to be dealing with the same thing. So we're going into, this free bird stage. And assuming this is for people who are partnered up. If you're not, that's a different story. But if you are with a partner, I know that a lot of times each person each person under the same roof, let's say, might have a different thought about what the next phase entails. And since you're in real estate, we're going to talk about empty nesting in the sense of our homes and where we live and like, should we stay or should we go? That it's a real interesting conversation, right, to start having with your partner, because your partner might want to stay put and might never want to leave and has the roots there. And the other one might go, hey, it's time to move back to the city and downsize. And these kids, we don't need 18 rooms. I'm being dramatic, but I want to go, live in the city and be able to walk out to coffee. So I'm sure you see this with clients that it's a really big conversation to have. And it's probably one we should start having, not on the cusp of all of our kids leaving the house, but probably a couple of years prior, right?
I mean, in an ideal world, it's great to have a plan and a vision, right? Like you hope that you're working towards retirement. You hope that you're making the right decisions that are helping you plan for that chapter in your life. But if you haven't had it because you've been busy or whatever, have the conversations now. You know, talk. That's the biggest thing. And I think actually even beyond that, having the time, whether you're with a partner or without, to really visualize what that next chapter looks like is key. But if you and your partner are having sort of difference in opinion of what this next chapter should look like, whether you stay in your home or whether you leave your home or your community, it can really help to look and experience that next chapter. So look at different homes, go to open houses, work with an agent if you need to, go stand in a 2-bedroom luxury townhouse that's turnkey or lock and leave. Lock and leave is a concept that Freebirds, I think, really embrace. That means a low maintenance home that doesn't need a lot of work or expense to maintain a yard, to maintain a pool, all of those things. It's like it's got the necessary things that you need. It elevates your quality of life, but you can lock it and leave for a while. Maybe you're going to travel to go see kids or whatever. You can also try on a place, use an Airbnb, a VRBO, rent something for a time. Again, talking to an agent, asking about how often homes like this come on, what you're envisioning. And that will stimulate good conversation between you and your partner. If they want something in the mountains and you want something at the beach, try them on. Does that beach community actually get 6 months of rain? Try it before you make a permanent decision like selling your, family home.
I think that's great advice. And it probably something it seems like so obvious, but I don't think it's something we would naturally think of. It just got me thinking too. Um, like I remember my husband's like, we should go live in the mountains. And of course, being from Hawaii, I want to go live by the beach, but try it on for size. So maybe it's in the summer if the kids are gone, or you can work remotely or whatever it is, or even if it's just a long weekend, it's like, it's like, rent before you buy kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be this dramatic. And I've known people who've made dramatic decisions. I'm going to upend everything, leave, and we're going to go live in Bali. They did that, upended their whole lives. And like, oh, actually, this is not for us. And they came back a year or two later. And that's like, and I've actually known two families who've done that exact thing. And that was really dramatic. So that's actually a nice way. And it's probably going to save marriages, Miley. It's probably going to save marriages because a lot of us can dig our heels into what we think should be next. And who was just talking this morning? And I was listening to a podcast, and a lot of us here at Midlife, if you're still partnered up, we've most likely been with our people for a while. And so we evolve together. And this is a next natural big inflection point, I think. Just, the kids leaving. What's next? Because guess what? It's you and me, babe. There's no one else. This has to make sense. It has to make us both happy and sort of, fulfill, both of our needs and like what we desire for the future. And I think a lot of the times, and correct me if I'm wrong, in your experience, we are not sitting down and having these conversations and having these check-ins because with families and things still at home, we're just working and kids and dinners and lunches and laundry, and we're not sitting and looking to the future. Are you seeing that? Or are some of the people, are people more advanced than maybe I am in having these discussions?
No, no. I mean, I think we're just starting to have these discussions. I think it's easier to have the discussion of whether you stay or whether you go as the need arises. So sometimes this comes up because from a practical perspective, the house just isn't going to work into your later years, right? So it's not just about the size of the house. It can be you have too many levels, too many stairs. You're one knee surgery away from not being able to get the groceries into the house. So that's an easier place to jump off on, right? It's not just like we're changing our lifestyle in our house just to change it. Because when you do it for the latter reason, you have two different people involved and a family involved and lots of different opinions. It can be hard to get on the same page. But if you start with a practical perspective, how does this house serve us? Do we need 5 bedrooms? Financially, what it takes to support that home and maintain that home. That starts a really constructive conversation. And then hopefully it leads into a conversation about your hopes and dreams and your next chapter. But again, if you can't get on the same page, there's probably enough room for both people's dreams. You just got to try them on. I'm not like you, Jen. I grew up in Hawaii. I'm not going to the mountains and wanting to dig myself out of the snow. But if that was important to my husband, I could try it for a while. He might not like the miserable person he now lives with. But, I think there's room to try this on. But if you can take some of the emotional pieces out of it, like how long can you be in this home and why you're holding on to it, and the benefits that could come from downsizing or lightening up, decluttering, and having a fresh new start can be a whole new thing to think about.
Ooh, I love that. And I love just being really driving home that point of just being open to possibility. And we can't automatically shut out, happy wife, happy life. It doesn't always work that way. It takes two peas in a pod. We've got to make these decisions together. But I think at the end of the day, it's giving ourselves permission also to explore possibilities and maybe dig deep and just think about crazy dreams. There's probably those places we wanted to live. We've always wanted to try something out, or we're envisioning a certain way of living, and getting honest with ourselves and also getting honest with our partners. And it could be really fun, just go out and go like, let's dream big. Like, everyone gets to design the next phase. Right. And so I feel like houses are our home and they're very important, but I know most of us listening, we're all mostly Gen X with our boomer and older parents. My parents have been in the same house since I was in 4th grade. So most of us, unless our parents have kind of moved into care homes and things like that, are pretty much, I'm just making a general assumption, but for that generation, mostly stayed in that one place. I know my parents at one point tried to move just house location, and they just couldn't do it. Like psychologically, they're like, we just can't do it. But it was still on the island. But it's a big decision. So I want to talk about like just giving ourselves permission, because you said, do we need the big house? And that also, it's more money. It limits your possibility. So once, kids are out the door, do we need that permission slip? Or let's give ourselves that permission slip, I should say, to explore other possibilities. So it's downsizing, and maybe you have a condo here and a condo there, or maybe you're just like, I just want to free. I like that concept of lock and leave, and not having to deal with, why is the screen broken? Why are there ants? All that stuff, because I'm going to Paris and I'm doing this and I'm going to New York to see my kids. So there's freedom in that. And that goes to our Freebird thesis of, just being able to like do what we want. So Maile and I were talking before we started, y'all, that, if we wanted to leave everybody with a key thought, it was that, we do have permission to dream big and to look at midlife as this beautiful time to do things differently, and to give ourselves permission to go where we want to go. It doesn't have to be how it's always been, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And when you think about your home, and if you've been in your home a long time, you bought that home quite likely in your 30s with a whole different set of priorities. Growing a family, needing a yard, needing a lot of space, needing schools, moving somewhere because of school districts. You're able to kind of step away from all that now. And I think it's great that we can give ourselves permission, that our sort of generation and time has permission to do that, because our parents and our grandparents, lots of people stayed in their home and in their community their whole lives. We don't have to do that. You can certainly choose it. If you love your community, or if you love your house, make your house work for you. But I have so many clients doing so many unique things. I'm hearing a lot of people moving back to the cities. They're like, I don't need the suburbs anymore. I don't need all of this space. I don't need the school district. I can live in the city where more things are going on, and, culturally. And that's super exciting to some people. My divorce clients, this is a time where it's super freeing for them, because many of the women that I work with have been renting to stay in a similar school district for their kids. And their kids are now out of the home, and they might be able to buy something now for themselves with fewer bedrooms. Maybe they run their business out of their homes. Now they can buy a home that feels good and like a great environment for them without worrying about a high price for a top school district.
That's a really good point. And that's, you read my mind, because my next question was going to be for the women listening, exactly to your point, who haven't owned a home, because a lot of, myriad reasons why. It could be divorce, death, all these different things that pop up in midlife, a failed business, whatever it is. When you take away certain things like school districts, which are higher property taxes and higher home values and all of that, that is a great, and I know we have a mutual person that we know who did just that. That's also like a very freeing, very kind of exciting thing to consider. And so my question here is, if someone hasn't owned a home for a long time, or has never owned a home, or is finding themselves in this place, is real estate still a good investment to make if we're making that investment in our 50s or even beyond?
I think so. I mean, historically, real estate outpaces in growth the rate of inflation. So that's protecting your wealth and your money right there. Yeah, it's a lot to get into a home, but they always say it's best to get into a home yesterday based on the prices. It also protects and diversifies your retirement portfolio. You don't know what the value of that home will be in 10 years. You're not paying rent to somebody else. It gets really hard to move in your later years, and you want to have control over your lifestyle and how you choose to age in place. So if you can buy something, whether it's one or two bedrooms and just for you, fantastic. That's your sanctuary. You're protecting your investment. You're paying towards your own life goals. And this all becomes part of a larger portfolio.
I love that. And it also made me think of the fact that, oh God, I just saw a headline today that we're living something like 35 years longer than I think it was the generation before us. I don't know the exact details, but I've read other things like that. And I've interviewed Chip Conley, and we've all come to the same conclusion, and the data is showing it. First of all, we're living longer, we're healthier, we're focused on longevity. Of course, you're listening to the show, so we should be doing all the things we need to be doing, like eating our protein and working out and doing all those things. Ladies, make sure you're doing all those things. And we are really coming into our own. So the thought of, I was literally reflecting on this morning, the thought of retiring at 65, when I feel like I've just stepped into who I'm truly meant to be in the world and how I'm going to impact people, I see myself working for the next 30 years. So even talking about retirement to me seems like, what old people are you talking about? Because it's not me. Like it's, and I just spent time with my mom, and she's just turned 79, and she's still in real estate in Hawaii. And on her birthday, she was helping a client move out of their place. And I was like, go mom. And we took her out for a nice dinner. But I mean, that's how I'm approaching life. So I think it's a picture you're painting here is, and I think what we should all embrace, and especially for entrepreneurs, and you buy a place and there's all those wonderful talk to your accountant deductions you can take for home offices and this and that and the other, and then just have that place that makes you happy. That it's not too late, like everything in life, right, Maile? You're not too fucking old, and it's not too fucking late.
No, I mean, 50 is the new 30, right? I
It
mean,
really is.
look at our examples of 50-year-old women and what they're doing, and 50-year-old men too, right? We still have 30 years or more left. And so I hope to get excited about it. I can't imagine just talking about retirement. And honestly, I think our generation, and I don't think we can. Things are too expensive. I'm not hearing a lot of people talking about retirement yet. Um, a lot of my clients are talking about having space for a home office for their next venture. Maybe they're not working in the job that they've worked in for 30 years. Maybe they're talking about slightly reinventing themselves. But I'm not hearing people talking about hanging it up and being a retiree. I think we still have too much that we want to do and accomplish.
Well, hallelujah to that. And also, and we can't solve this problem. Like, how is everyone going to pay for everything if we all stop working? Because we are living so much longer, and all those old financial models had us dead.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's that wah, wah, wah. But, all y'all need to do is like listen back to Chip Conley's podcast and talking about all the beautiful things about midlife and all the opportunity. And that's all the people going to his retreats down in New Mexico or New Mexico and Mexico is everyone, just to your point, everyone is going in. I didn't put myself in that box. I'm 55. You just turned 55. Like, we're all creating and starting new things. And we've come to this place where we really feel called to do these next wonderful, beautiful, amazing things. So we need to really go for it. So I love this. So a couple final questions for you. I could talk to you forever, but what would you say to the woman that is sitting on the sidelines, just waiting to go for something? And she's kind of like, she's holding herself back. She's holding herself back and she's not taking action, but she knows she really wants to do something. What advice would you give to her?
Don't wait. Don't wait. I mean, and we make excuses. I've done it. Don't wait. Do it now. I mean, life is short. I mean, we're talking about having some longevity, but life is short. And most likely, so many of us have been putting ourselves second for a really long time. And I think it's so good to be able to sort of reprioritize yourself and do what you've been thinking about. What excites you? What have you been what's been at the back of your mind for a while that you haven't tried? I mean, try something new, do it.
I love it. So really dig into the free bird mentality. And even if you don't have kids, we can all adopt this mentality of just putting yourself first, because we have a really good way of putting ourselves dead last, no matter what our situation is. So what do you think the best thing is about being in midlife, Maile?
For me, it's being less fearful. about less about what other people think of me, more about what I want to do and what makes me happy. I think through living, confidence comes through, right? Like you've lived life, it shows. Just do what makes you happy and don't constantly look around and compare yourself to others. I found that really freeing. Um, and I'm finding that I'm moving forward and growing and much more confident as I do more and challenge myself more.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, everyone finishes this phrase, and that is you're not too fucking old too.
Go for it.
Woo, mic
Just
drop.
do it, right? Go for it.
Just do it. We're going to free bird. We're going to do it. We are not going to care what people think. We're going to embrace this second half of life. I love it. Well, thank you for being here today, Maile. This has been a true treat to chat with you. And I know, we're on shared paths and sharing journeys of our babies leaving. And I felt better. I feel better about the whole thing after just having talked to you about it. And so that's why I have this podcast too. And we have these conversations because we're not alone. We're all dealing with the same stuff. And it's really important to look at this phase as a time of opportunity and what could possibly be. So thank you for being here and sharing your expertise and your knowledge. And I look forward to seeing you very soon, my dear.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen. I appreciate it. It was a fun conversation. We need to have more of them.
Yes, we do.